Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Mexico is a scary place. Story time. I was 8 and we went to Mexico. Was really social with all my cousins over there. Usually shared a bed with an older female cousin named Eli. Typical Mexican girl with no future at the time. She went out a lot, was very aggressive towards my aunt, and came home when she wanted. Late nights of telling scary stories. It's a common practice in Mexican culture to basically scare away kids from doing things the parents see unfit by introducing fake stories of monsters that kidnap you, El Cucuy, and other such things. Telling a story about a girl from the town that supposedly got possessed and had to be taken to the main church or something along those lines. Scared shitless for once. My cousin was there to be with me, so I would sleep with her in the same bed. Like any 8-year-old, you just pass out of nowhere. Wake up to the tightest, most painful grip around my arm. She's screaming to help her. Everyone literally thought she was just playing around. She tended to do that a lot to try and scare us. Pay no attention until we notice she's getting dragged towards the end of the bed. Scream and call my grandma to come. My grandma is a super religious Catholic. 90% of Mexico at the time was Catholic. Start praying and we all start crying. All the lights were on and it seemed to stop right away. My grandma makes my cousin pray all night and sleep with a rosary on, and with a cross above her bed. In the morning, she shows us her legs. She has red marks as if she was being squeezed really hard. I slept with my parents after that day. Had 2 more similar experiences in Mexico. My dad's hometown was pretty boring 24/7. It's old-school farming, typical farm environment. Nothing really went on. But there was a town next door, basically 15 minutes away, where lots of parties went down. I had officially turned 16 years old in December, and an uncle decided to take me out to celebrate at a party. Typical drunk, drugs kind of party. Not my thing at all. Told him I wanted to leave. Too drunk to remember we had gotten a ride from a guy that lived in our town, and he had left a long time ago. Finally get him off his drunk ass and make him start walking. For anyone who has never been to Mexico at night in the ugly farm countries like that, basically it's all black, pitch black. The stars are the only source of light and they only give a little, and you need to watch your step or else you could fall into a stream, etc. Barely 5 minutes into our 30-minute walk, Uncle says he has to take a piss. This whole route back to my farming town is basically a plain dirt road, and on both sides long corn, wheat fields. He's pretty drunk just pissing into the fields. I'm only a couple yards away, walking extra slow so he can catch up. Hear him yell at the top of his lungs and say, "La bruja," basically translates to the witch. Don't think twice. I've heard enough Mexican folktale to hear about witches who torture you. La Llorona, which is basically a ghost that cries for her children but has a goat body from the waist down. Start running like hell, not even knowing what's behind or in front. It's too dark to see. I expected my uncle to say it was a joke, but I can hear him crying from behind me. About 1/8 of a mile ahead, I could see a light or lantern haul ass towards the light. Get there first. My uncle is behind a good 10 seconds. Start banging on the door, crying, literally. Old folks open up and my uncle doesn't say anything, just basically makes his way in. I quickly follow and close the door behind. Explain to the old folk what happened. My uncle can only to this day describe it as a woman with an ugly face wearing all white like a robe. My last and final story. I haven't been to Mexico since. So basically, guys, I traveled to Mexico only to visit my family, basically my grandparents. I'm 25 as of right now. So basically all 3 stories took place in different times in my life. My final story was the last time I went, which was 5 years ago. My grandparents passed away, RIP. Decided to take a trip to the main city, Mexico City, Distrito Federal. Have a cousin who lives over there that basically wanted to be my tour guide and show me around the city. We decided to take a trip to a dance club kind of place. Didn't think much of it. I had a great time. It was really early in the morning, around 4 a.m. or 5-ish. On our way back to his house, it's a good hour, 40 minutes away. I saw some girl from far away walking along the road stop and ask her if she needed a ride, just to be kind, plus she seemed really cute. She got into the back seat. We tried striking a conversation with her several times. She seemed really shy and usually replied with one-word answers. Didn't bother looking at her when I talked to her because she seemed to look down or away. Go to an intersection 4-way. If you know Mexico, everyone speeds and crashes every day. Extra cautious, stupid big semi-truck cuts us off halfway through the intersection. My cousin slammed on the brakes. We flipped out about it, then continued on our way until we asked her if she was okay. Look back. No one's there. Pull over, swearing our lungs off. My cousin pulls out a gun he carried. Look around the car, the back seat, everything. No one. Apparently, this has happened very frequently to taxi drivers and people who pick up hitchhikers in the Mexico City area. Long story short, a very cute woman was hitchhiking and she got murdered, and she apparently just hitches rides and disappears. Never went back to Mexico, don't plan to. I've never had any paranormal experiences over here in the US. They all happened in Mexico.
I was in Mexico on business. Got a room in the nicest hotel in town, was still trash. Went to get ice from the machine. Guy was already down there too, showed me that the machine was slow. He gets nervous and runs off scared. Okay, light sig because this stupid machine is still getting ice. I have to hold the button the whole time. Notice the dark shadow of a large man walking slowly down the dim hallway. Nay about it because so what? Turn and notice guy seems to have started staring at me. Man goes from goof around slow walk to standing angrily. Look around, no cameras or otherwise people, and still pushing buttons. Man starts marching at me like he's got business. Unlike myself, I got scared. Something was telling me to run in my head. Tell self to hang in there as man picks up speed. Holding the button still, man gets within 10 feet. Close my eyes and ready myself to take a blow. A cold breeze hits me hard in the side of the head while standing there petrified. Silence. Turn and look, but there was nothing. 3 people staring in shock from their rooms. Doors almost at the same time closed, which seemed to unfreeze me. Nope, out of there. 3 days later, I went down there to see if my ice bucket was still there, and some old guy who was looking out of his door previously said I was one bad mofo because he saw the guy swing at me and disappear on impact. Little did he know I was frozen there for whatever reason.
I worked with a Mexican guy once who had a lot of awesome spook stories about Mexico. I've told this story countless times on this board already, but never in a spooky Mexico thread. Guy telling the story's brother drives to the nearest town, almost an hour away as he lives in the boonies. The drive is nothing but an hour of dead desert. Proceeds to the bar and gets tore up. Leaves town after 12 to go home. About halfway home, he noticed a little girl walking on the side of the road. 12 years old, nightgown like Samara from The Ring. Passes her, wonders how she got in the middle of nowhere. Turns around to see if she needs help. Rolls down the window, starts asking her questions. She acts like he's not even there. Gets fed up and leaves, starts feeling bad. Turns around again and asks if she needs help again. She finally stops, turns towards him and opens her mouth, which is full of fangs. Guy hits the gas with all his nope and doesn't stop till he gets home. Sleeps with a shotgun that night. Never drives that stretch of road after nightfall again.
Mexican here. I don't know what it is, but those little towns give me the creeps at night. There's countless stories I have heard of family and friends living paranormal shit, and for some reason most of them take place in one of those towns. Even my dad has stories about the paranormal. The way they tell them, it's just so honest, and you can just see the fear in their eyes when they tell those stories. I went to a small town for summer, a couple of months ago, with my family and 2 other families, who've been neighbors with us since I can remember. We're all good friends, so we decided to share a house in a small town. It's about 2 hours away from the city where I live, and about 45 minutes from the beach. One of the nights, me and the other teens, we were about 6, were hanging around on the porch at night. There was only one TV and an iPad, but no internet connection or other distraction, and naturally, we got to scary story time. Apparently, in the town where we were, there used to be an old man who was a wizard or shaman or something. People around town used to say he could transform into animals, and transform other people too. Basically, the townspeople got mad at him for something, and wanted him out of town. The men rallied with machetes and knives to kill him. When they got to his house, the man was nowhere to be found, and all that was left was a pig, and being the superstitious people they were, they killed the pig by decapitating him, thinking maybe the man had turned himself into the pig. The next morning they found the body of a criminal who was supposedly in jail, decapitated in a farm. No one saw the wizard man again. The father of one of the families we were with told us that night about an experience he had when he was a child. I'm guessing he's about 50, so this should have taken place in 1960 or so. He told us how his family had a beach house, and they would go every summer. One of those summers, his brother found a strange creature washed ashore. They both took it home to show it to their mom, and the mom was really underwhelmed with the creature. He described it as a mermaid, a small fish with the face of a human. The mother instantly knew what it was, and told them to take it back to the shore. That's pretty much it for this story, but he was just so casual about it, like acknowledging mermaids like it was no big deal. Here's another, since people seem to be enjoying these. Another from my grandma. There are a lot of villages that spring from out of nowhere only to disappear years or even months later in the deserts of Mexico. Harsh climate, weather, and corruption can easily wipe off an entire town within years. Occasionally you would get one that the people who survive can only believe was caused by some darker force. There were two women who loved the same man in a little town close to the one of the only lakes in the higher mountain regions of Mexico. They were constantly fighting and bickering over who deserved what more than the other. Some believe that one of the women didn't actually love this man but only claimed so and seduced him to hurt her rival. In the end the man finally got fed up and left the town to marry someone else, leaving one if not both women devastated. Rather than burying the hatchet, they blamed each other more and more until their anger made them seek out the help of two men who were known for their witchcraft. The women, not knowing that the other was thinking the same thing, consulted with these different men and told them of their troubles. At first the attacks were small and personal. Someone's skin would seem more wrinkled and older, someone would lose one of their personal things. Small things that slowly escalated so they could watch the other suffer more and more. It was sometime later that one finally realized in order to hurt someone badly you just have to hurt someone they love. Their nieces and nephews started having nightmares about demons eating them alive. Siblings and friends would start seeing shadows move along the ceiling. And one by one the townspeople started to die at a very quick rate, mostly from sickness or some bizarre accident. Sometimes the influence of something horrible happening wasn't so subtle. One man was found trampled to death and being eaten alive by his own horse when they found his body. The women finally started to realize what they were doing and told the witch men to stop. They said that they weren't doing anything anymore. That it was both their fault for carrying their pointless hatred too far and only they could stop it. So they did the only thing they could think of. They blamed each other and killed each other by getting into a fight and accidentally throwing each other down a cliff that led to a dry riverbed. Hatred has stupid logic. The townspeople figured it out from the arguments about what was going on. About half the village died within 2 years and the other half were already dying from sores that seemed to appear overnight. They decided it would be best to leave the women's bodies there. After the people left, a great rain came and flooded out the town. Occasionally, you can see the roofs of some of the little houses when the tide is low. This happened about 3 months after moving into my new house. Go outside to grab mail, evening now as I've just gotten home from work.
This happened about 3 months after moving into my new house. Go outside to grab mail, evening now as I've just gotten home from work. Find a small doll on the front lawn. Slow down as I'm passing it and see it's a Llorona doll. Suddenly I realize it's completely silent. No wind, cars, animals at all. Look around, look back at the doll. Doll is gone. Speed walk to mailbox, open to grab mail, and it's in my mailbox, sitting on top of the mail with this crooked-ass smile. I run to grab my phone, camera or anything. I run back outside, my mail is all over my driveway, no doll. Cars are back, my neighbor is walking to her home. Says my mail just began to pour out as she was getting out of her car. She is a 60-year-old woman. No way could she move fast enough, or have reason to do this. I've never seen the doll again, and I can't find anything even remotely resembling it online. It had a black little goat body and some kind of sugar skull head with a mouth agape. Only could have been a couple inches in height and width. Nothing like this has ever happened to me, and hasn't again. I never feel comfortable getting my mail anymore, mostly just from memory. I just want to know why. If it was pranksters, they would have continued, right? But how could they have moved the doll like that and gotten away before my neighbor saw them mess with my mail?
I live in a house where my dad used to live with his ex-family, divorced. His ex-wife apparently went to some witches and they cursed our family. Dad loses all hair, all of a sudden has heart problems and epilepsy. My mom out of nowhere hates me, doesn't abuse me but pretty much ignores me and tells me how much I suck and ruined her life. I was around 5 to 9 when all that happened. One day my parents are having lunch in the kitchen. When I enter, I give the wooden door a little punch to open it. Mom loses her mind.
It's the witches and the witchcrafting on you, dumb kid.
Dad starts to salivate like a dog. He had little spasms or epileptic attacks. Mom hires a white witch. One day my mom dug a hole in the backyard. The witch told her to, and she finds a jar with human hair, some frogs with red ribbons, a black human chap candle with pins in the heart and head and a ring. Next week a load of people will come to my house. They start performing a weird ritual. My dad is his bed asleep or drugged, who knows. Everyone around him is chanting a mix of Catholic prayers with some spell-like talk. Mom tells me to go outside and wait. When I come back, the whole perimeter of the house is covered with spices, plants, and seeds. From there on, things return to normal. My dad doesn't remember anything, and my mom always changes the details or tells me I'm making it up if I bring it up.
This happened a couple of nights ago. It's nighttime, and it's about that time to take my dog out to do her final business of the evening. I'm standing on the front porch when I hear this rustling coming from the side of our house. We live in pretty close proximity to our neighbors, so the light from the back door was lighting up their side of the house, and I could see what resembled a person. Like they were standing just in front or behind the door to cast their shadow on my neighbor's house. While feeling uneasy, I try and determine whether it's just some stupid optical illusion or not when it begins to sway very slightly, as if it was someone shifting their weight from one leg to the other. My blood ran cold, and I noticed my dog had begun clawing frantically at the door to be let back in. I followed without hesitation. What really creeped me out was when I got back inside, I inspected the back door and the shade was down. My parents had both been asleep for at least 2 hours. I felt extremely uncomfortable and went to head back upstairs, but as I was just turning the corner to leave the kitchen, where the back door is, the shade shot right up. I noped myself all the way under my covers. When I woke up the next morning, it was still up. My dad asked me if I'd pulled it, and I just said nah and ate my eggs with silent sobs. My dad doesn't have much patience for paranormal things, so my sister and I keep the stories we experience to ourselves mostly.
I live near Mexico City. By near, I mean about 20 miles away. My house has a forest on the backyard, and as you said, it is pitch black during the night. B13, I wake up on the middle of the night, feeling sick. Hear the noise of falling stuff. Some plastic bottles hanging in the backyard from a recent party. See through the curtains, carefully see an animal trying to jump over a wall. By animal, I mean what people describe as grey aliens. I feel cold shivers down my spine. The animal freezes, stops trying to climb the wall. 5 seconds of total silence, motionless, dead, cold air entering my room. Animal turns its head in the blink of an eye. Void, black, lifeless eyes looking directly at me. I try to run to my parents' room, blackout as I fall to the ground in the hallway. Wake up on my bed. Shut up and never tell anyone until a couple years ago. My second story, not aliens related. B15. Going to bed late at night after doing worthless homework. There is a big mirror on the entrance to my room. See my reflection on it. Also a hand coming from the darkness, going to grab my shoulders. Feel the cold embrace of it. Move away while thinking I'm going to get robbed or murdered by some lowlife. Nothing. Nope, I can't sleep. Start playing on my PSP. Valkyrie profile FTW. Screen goes black while loading. While screen is black, I see my reflection and a face behind my left shoulder. Seems like someone who died in a traffic accident. Nope, nope, nope. The next day I went to school without sleeping a single minute. Be about 17, playing outside with friends. Soccer. Hate it, but whatever. The ball lands inside the yard of an old house. Friends are like, "Go get it anon, don't be a coward." Knocking on the front door. Old woman opens it and lets me in to search for the ball. There's a nice smell filling the yard. She says it's from champurrado, some kind of milk-based chocolate drink, and biscuits. invites me inside the house. I was in the front yard. I spend a couple of hours with the old lady. I've always felt more comfortable with grown-ups. We talk about death and life, family and politics, somewhat regular chat. Say goodbye to the lady. She invited me to her birthday next week. 1 week later, I showed up with a present for her. A guy in his 40s answers the door, tells me the old lady was his mother, who died 15 years ago. Never set foot on that street or house again.
I wouldn't recommend anyone going into a house that drives everything insane within a 10-mile radius. Maybe leaving the cameras there wouldn't be so bad, but I would never go there. I once visited a haunted church close to the city where my aunt lives. The entire feel of it was nauseous, cold and angry. I mean, you started to remember things that pissed you off, and it just started building up in your little head until you could kill the person standing next to you because they did something slightly annoying once a long time ago. A fight between my cousin and his friend broke out in the church, and I remember thinking, I hope they kill each other. It was their neighbor, a little girl who was a little younger than I, started screaming for us to get out now. I don't remember how the fight started or ended, but that they both ran for the door along with me. After we left, I vomited and had the worst headache of my life. It was like an ecto hangover or something. We visited one of the more mundane haunted places in Mexico, but I wouldn't go to one of those places if I could help it.
My uncle's Mexican nope story. There was some war in Mexico in the 1910s or 1920s. According to folklore, many soldiers leaving for war would leave gold and money in caves so the other side would not find it. My uncle wanted to get rich, so he searched and eventually found a promising cave in Jalisco. Him and his crew go, and after crawling like pigs, stumble on an opening. Gold, jewels, etc. the works. Uncle is about to take the treasure when they see a human skeleton sitting there, moving its head according to their movements. Nope. Tio and buddies freak out and make it out of the cave, which collapsed as they made it out.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.